Kia ora, ngā mai ki te whare. Welcome to the House, ko Louis Collins aho. First up on the order paper this week was a new bill trying to fix something that everyone hates, sitting in traffic. It's called the
Land Transport Management Time of Use Charging Amendment Bill.
And essentially enables the implementation of a congestion charge. Time of use charging, congestion charging, whatever you want to call it, is not exactly a brand new idea, with successive governments and a select committee inquiry exploring a scheme for Auckland. A congestion charge is a fee that commuters pay when driving through the often gridlocked areas of the city, like the CBD in rush hour or in the morning before work and school. As well as reducing congestion, it can help to reduce emissions, with more people choosing to use public transport or walk or cycle. Here's Chris Bishop.
The simple proposition is this: by charging motorists to travel on certain roads at peak times, we will encourage people to change the time or the way they travel, or the route they take, maximising the efficient use of our roading assets and keeping the traffic flowing freely. Faster, more reliable travel times will help increase economic growth and productivity, lower costs of businesses and their customers.
Some of the world's biggest cities with notoriously bad traffic, like London, Singapore, Stockholm or New York, have implemented similar models which have reduced traffic to varying levels. Let's not forget though that these cities have long had world-class public transport infrastructure. This was something that the Greens' Julianne Genter pointed out during the bill's first reading on Tuesday.
And there's a significant difference between all of those cities and Auckland. And one is that they have much higher density of employment and people living in the city. Of course, that's changed a lot in Auckland over the last 30 years thanks to more permissive zoning. But they have higher density, much greater use of public transport because it's more frequent and it's more affordable. And they also have a much smaller supply of car parking and much higher prices to use car parking. So it does make sense to do all of those things first. That is, allow higher density, invest in public transport, invest in people-oriented streets, walking and cycling, and include sensible approaches to parking management, including pricing the use of parking before you go to congestion pricing. That said, the Green Party is supportive of this bill as drafted to select committee.
New Zealand First's Andy Foster agreed.
Julianne Genter, the Honourable Julianne Genter said, talked about getting other things right and having public transport and other means of transport right. That's really, really important. Also getting our urban form right, and it's really interesting to see, and I think about this in the context of housing and housing provision. The first line of the explanatory note says New Zealand's largest cities face significant traffic congestion compared to cities with similar population densities. So what that's basically saying is we've got other cities around the world which don't face such a challenge, but what we've done is we've spread our cities out. And I think there is a warning there that while it might make it cheaper, there's also a cost to spreading out in terms of our cities, and that cost is borne in congestion and the cost of infrastructure.
After what was a bit of a will they won't they dynamic, Labour also decided to support the bill on Tuesday, with Arana Williams plainly stating what anyone who's ever sat in gridlock traffic can probably agree with.
Arana Williams.
Mr. Speaker, congestion sucks. It sucks 2.5 hours out of the day of a tradie from Manarewa who's working in town, might be working in Henderson, might be working in Mangere, 2.5, 3 hours gone from his day. It sucks 2 hours out of a parent's day that they could otherwise be spending with their kids at the end of the day, but instead they're in their car. And it sucks the joy out of living in the Auckland suburbs.
Introducing new charges for things invariably has political risks. Te Pāti Māori picked up on this and were the only party to not support the bill.
The government claims congestion charging will reduce emissions and improve productivity. But what they fail to acknowledge is that the charge is a tax on those who often have no other choice. It is our cleaners, our caregivers, our construction workers, many of whom are Māori and Pacific whānau, who will feel this the most. These are the essential workers who cannot shift their work, who I heard our previous member talk about shifting your work. It's not that easy for our whānau. The hours, we just can't do that. And instead of investing in affordable alternatives, this government has made it harder for them to get around.
When considering legislation, sometimes politicians have to weigh up the political popularity of a bill with the public benefit. Labour's Shannon Halbert theorised that this was one of those cases.
We heard from countries overseas. We heard from Stockholm. I had the opportunity to travel to Vancouver to see how they were implementing congestion charging, and they were very clear. That change is instant on the day that congestion charging is introduced. But there will be a reaction from the public that we, as members who are supporting this bill, will be challenged by that. And government members do need to hold their nose and move through it and support this, because it will be the change that we need to achieve in our city.
Of course, MPs will get a chance to hear that public reaction very soon, now that the bill is with the Transport and Infrastructure Committee. E te whakarongo koe ki te whare. You've been listening to The House, a program made with funding from Parliament's Office of the Clerk. Mātua.